Hi, my name is Maya, and today I'm here with Eddie Gutierrez. Thank you so much for being here.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
So, when did you discover your love for performing? Was there a specific person or show or class that got you started?
So I think from my viewpoint, I started really late. I started at the age of 16, which I guess with the peers I had around me, I felt I was pretty late to the game. I hadn't really been exposed to the arts in a lot of my life. I felt like somehow I'd been very sheltered from the arts. I really hadn't engaged in theater or music or dance in any way. And Trinity really provided me my first experiences in the arts, thanks to a program that we're not a performing arts magnet school, but when I was going here, we were doing like 8 shows a year, wow. And that's unheard of in schools that aren't dedicated to the performing arts. We had our middle school show, our high school show, the play, a musical. We had student-produced shows. We had self-written shows. It was just constantly work was being done here. And so when I randomly was pulled to an audition for Romeo and Juliet by some of my friends my sophomore year of high school, I fell in love with this thing that I had never experienced before. I loved theater. I loved acting the second I started doing it. And because of just the exposure to so many pieces every year, I realized, I think I also really love music. I really love dance. Janine Papan put on a production of A Chorus Line here, which really sealed my love for all of it. Doing that show was a game changer for me. And at that point, it was the summer before junior year. So I'm sure lots of people at the school will understand when you're at that point in your career here, you're starting to think about college. You're starting to think about what am I going to be doing, and making some really big decisions. And I really had about a year to figure out, do I want to do this? So there was a lot of pressure I was feeling, but this is the first time I felt super passionate about anything, was performing, and this Trinity is what led me there. So yeah, it all started here. Dancing started at 16, music started at 16, acting started at 16. That's when it started for me, and I fell in love with it.
Nice, that's cool. So on the topic of Trinity and shows at Trinity, what would you say is your favorite memory from Trinity?
Well, I do think A Chorus Line, it was my favorite show memory here. And as we do this interview, you will probably hear a lot more about this show. The show has come to play a huge part in my life. But then I think other than that, I think one of the biggest, most profound experiences for me was my senior year here. We had a performance masterclass kind of program where if you wanted to do it at the end of the program, you could create a show. And so I wrote my first one-man show that I ever did, and I performed it my spring semester of my senior year. And I think that was a moment that kind of was just like the cherry on top of my entire experience here, because I got to create a show that was about me, that was about things I was passionate about and I was curious about as an adolescent and growing up, and the questions I had about the life that was to come for me. The school really supported me in every facet of who I was. I in high school realized that I was queer. As a Latin man, I didn't have a lot of role models as well. So this show and the arts allowed me to explore my identity as a queer Latin man in the arts, and what that meant. And you don't really get that experience a lot, to really specifically hone in on who you are as a performer, as a human. And I will never forget that experience, getting to create something from that part of me and share it.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how did you balance schoolwork and training as a kid? There was a lot to do.
There's a lot to do, especially at Trinity, which I'm sure you understand. I feel like we would go to rehearsals, and whenever you weren't being used for a scene or something, you popped out your math book. You popped out, the book that you had to read for English. It's. I think whether you're in the arts or not at this school, I think you figure out how to multitask really, really well, because it's just the workload is so large. But it weirdly wasn't that stressful, honestly, because yeah, there was a lot of work, but then at the same time, we were doing something we loved so much by being here in the theater or performing. So days were really long, and I think anyone who is in the program still here at Trinity, they know that. They know that you get up early to be a class 8, whatever it is. What is it, 8:30,
Yeah,
8, something
8.
like that? School's done at 3, and then you're here in rehearsal to 5, 6, or if you have shows, you're doing that through the night. It's like, days are long, but you get used to it and you learn to love it. And honestly, if you're going to be a performer or in the arts, those are what days are like. Like, I was in Tech Week this past week before coming here, and I was working 10-hour days, 12-hour days. Like, that's just par for the course. So honestly, it really trains you for what's coming.
Yeah.
But again, if you love doing it, it's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. What's the best acting advice you've ever received?
There's a lot of lessons that have come to me at different points in my career, but I think one of the most important things I've learned was that never put who you are to the side when you're performing. Always incorporate your life experiences into what you're doing. I think there's this concept of, I'm creating a character, so it has to be that character's life experience and what they know and everything. But your imagination that you use to create that comes from your own life experience. Like, you can't disqualify the experiences you've had, the emotions you've felt, the memories that you carry with you when you're creating these characters. Use them. Take the pieces that work to create and build that character. Because I think so many times in acting school, they're like, you have to be a blank slate, and then you have to create from there. And it's like, okay, I understand the point of that. You want to be able to become very different characters. You want to have a wide range in the work that you do. But if you don't bring yourself to it, you're not going to get the nuances. You're not going to get the individuality of the character. You're not going to get the idiosyncrasies, what makes it special. Because if you bring yourself to it and what's special about you, that's when a character is really going to pop, really going to shine. So yeah, I think that was really important for me to learn, and it was hard for me to learn, especially as a gay man, or especially as a white passing Latino. It's like, there's a lot of people who say you shouldn't be those things because you're not going to get cast as this thing if they find out you're this or that. You don't want people to know anything about you, so that way you can play as many things as possible. But I'm proud of who I am, and I'm proud to bring those things to roles that I play, and I'm really interested in telling stories that pertain to my communities and stories that I really understand well, and I want to tell my community's story.
Nice.
So yeah, I say just bring who you are to the work.
Yeah. So I know you've performed in theater and film. What would you say you prefer?
Gosh, I wish the ultimate art form had elements of both, because I love film I feel I can be a lot more naturalistic. I can be a lot more nuanced in things I do, make smaller choices that read really well on the camera. But there's nothing that compares to a live audience. Like, that energy that you get from being around people and performing for people is just addictive. It's just the best feeling. So yeah, I mean, I love both so much, and I love musical theater as well, and that's something that is starting to become more prominent in film, but really that it's meant for the stage right now, at least. So I don't think I can answer that, but I really love elements of both, for sure. I definitely don't love doing 8 shows a week. That's definitely not my favorite thing to be doing, especially doing the same show over and over. I think as performers, we love our lifestyle is so, it's not consistent. There's not so much routine to it. So we love new things. So definitely getting to do new things more often is more desirable for myself. But 8 shows a week, it's at least a steady job for the time being.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah.
Is there anything you wish you'd known earlier on in your career that you know now?
Early on in my career, I had an answer for this. What did I want to know earlier on? There's a lot of mistakes that you can make that you constantly will regret, whether it be at an audition and wishing you had done better, or after a take, our final take of a scene for a film, and then you're like, oh, I should have done that choice, but it's done. We wrap that part. We're moving on to the next scene. We're never touching that again. I think one of the biggest lessons, honestly, that to take away from all of that is to be proud of the work you do your best, and you can't look back at those things. Take the lessons that you've learned from that, especially from the audition process, which can be so hard, and you're getting told no so often. You have to go into it with a mindset of there's a lesson to be learned whether or not I get the job, or whether or not I do the perfect take. Like, there are lessons to learn that I will take into the next film I do, or the next audition process. It's finding the lessons and making that what makes it worth it.
Yeah. So you're working in a super competitive industry. Is there anything you do to stand out amongst your competition?
I think it goes back to what I was saying before. I think you have to bring yourself to it. So at an audition, if you have an impulse for something in a script that might feel kind of left of center or like out there, it's like, but it feels really true to you and you can justify it, take the risk, take the risk. I think when I started leaning into the fact that I am this, because another thing is, as a dancer and someone who does film, if people see that you're a dancer, sometimes they question your acting ability. People have a lot of implicit biases on what it means to be part of different art forms when you come to acting, or be of certain identities when you come to acting. And but the more I learned that those were my strengths, whatever quirkiness I might have, or maybe my dance skills, or maybe it's the fact that I can speak Spanish and I also do American Sign Language. Let me bring my special skills to this, and if there's a way I can find a place for them in the role or in the script, in the performance, do it. Find a way. Make it fun. Make it interesting. Make sure that I am being interested by the choices I'm making. Stop trying to make the right choice for the audition, and try to actually just enjoy what I'm doing and have fun, and remember that I love this. Like, so much of the pressure in the audition process and in the work sometimes makes you forget, like, oh wait, I did this because I'm in love with this. Like, I love doing this. So remember that, because it really makes it so much more fun when you have fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who are your biggest influences?
My biggest influences, I think doing a lot of different things, being a dancer, being a singer, being an actor, and someone who's also now a director and choreographer. I have a lot of different people to pull from. When it comes to film, Michel Gondry's work really is interesting to me. That's Science of Sleep, Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. Some things that are a little more heightened in terms of visuals, like Steven Spielberg's most recent West Side Story, visually stunning. Every frame is a picture. So as a director, that really inspires me. As a dancer, Mia Michael's choreography always reminds me to always tell a story with my steps, and so I take from that. As an actor, Joe Mantello, this is actually as an actor and director, Joe Mantello, who was the director of Wicked, director of The Normal Heart revival. He is someone who I really look towards because he's a stunning actor and a stunning director. And I think that's something I really admire, because I think what I want from my career is to be able to do lots of things. I don't want to just do one thing. My dream of dreams is to really be a big director who does big shows, and a really great actor who is still dancing and singing into his entire life, honestly. Throughout my life, I want to be doing that. So yeah, I love seeing people who can do lots of things. So Joe Mantello is a big one for me, for sure.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Nice. Mm-hmm. Could you tell me a little bit about your most challenging audition process?
So my most challenging audition process is for one of the things that I am is now one of the biggest parts of my life, which was for a chorus line. So a chorus line, the revival came back in 2006. Original show was from 1975 to 1990, closed for 15 years. Then in 2006, this revival happened. I fell in love with the show when I did it here at Trinity. We did the original Michael Bennett choreography for it. So I had a lot of the tools already for this show ready to go. And whenever the show is done, they generally do the original choreography. So if you know it once, you're going to be ready for the real thing. But everyone wanted to be in that show. Like you said, this is a very competitive business. So everyone knows that choreography. So everyone's kind of coming in with that same head start. And so it's a very competitive process. I auditioned for the show. I auditioned for the revival. I auditioned for the first national tour. I auditioned for the non-equity tour that happened. I auditioned for the Japan production that came out. All those times, I never got the job. The first time I did a double pirouette, which they do to just type people out. You're not even dancing. They just go double pirouette, go down the line. And I did my double pirouette. I got cut immediately. The next time I auditioned for it, I made it through the first dance combo, and then I had to do the second dance combo. I got cut. The next time I got through all the dancing. I then had to sing. I got cut after singing. And then, so those were all those productions. I kept getting cut, but I kept getting further every time in the process. So it gave me a sense of hope each time, even though it broke my heart because I was so in love with that show and I wanted to do it so bad in a professional setting. I still had a glimmer of hope because I was like, I'm getting further each time. Finally, a national tour came out in 2012. I auditioned for it, made it all the way through, read the sides and everything, and I booked the job. Now I work with the torchbearer of the show, Byork Lee, who was the original Connie Wong in 1975 for the show. She now does productions of it everywhere. She's still the go-to person for it. She's my mentor. I assist her on productions. But that was one of the most grueling and emotionally taxing processes for me because I would feel myself getting closer but constantly being told no for it, for something that I felt I was so right for. Yeah, which I think is the epitome of what you're talking about. It's a competitive business. The audition process is hard. What can you do in an audition to stand out? And every time I went there, I just made sure I set a goal for myself at each audition, so that way, even if I did fail, or not fail, if I didn't get the job, I still got something out of it. So that was the hardest for me, but also the most rewarding when I finally got it.
That's amazing. I love that.
Yeah, thanks.
So what has your biggest takeaway been from your career so far?
My biggest takeaway, this has been a hard 2 years. You know, we're coming out of a pandemic now, and not being able to do the thing that I love, the career that I've built my life towards for 2 years was really hard. But it gave me time to reflect on why I was doing it. You know, I went to school at NYU where there were hundreds of people involved in the theater programs, whether they were directors, designers, performers, whatever it was. And a lot of them didn't stick with the business after. You know, a lot of them found other things they were passionate about, or other parts of the theater industry that they wanted to go into. Some people just dropped all of it altogether and went a totally different direction. But I always wondered, like, in the hard times, whether it be I wasn't working for a while, I couldn't book a job, or during the pandemic where there just was no option to work, I had to really check in with myself about what has been keeping me going through all of this. Why am I still doing this even in the hard times, even as I start to build a life for myself? I feel like I'm an adult now, and I'm trying to create a foundation that's steady, and the business is not steady, you know? So how do I make my life feel a little more secure while doing this very volatile profession? And for me, I realized that I was finding joy in the work itself, regardless of whether it was steady, regardless of if there was fame to come out of it. I really enjoy telling stories, and I really enjoy affecting an audience and giving something back to them. I think I was reminded of why I started doing this. When I was 16 and I was first exposed to this program, I was in a place in my life where I was looking for purpose. I was looking for my identity, who I was, trying to figure that out. I was coming out at the time. 20 years ago, basically, is when this was all happening. And at that time, I didn't have role models. I didn't have people who I could look to help me realize the person I could become, the fully realized version of myself. And then I started finding it through theater, and I started finding it through shows I was seeing. I was being affected. Things I was dealing with in my own life, whether it be with having my heart broken by love, or figuring out what I was passionate about to give back to this world. I was seeing it on the stage. I was seeing how characters were dealing with. I was seeing how characters were dealing with it, or I was seeing performers do something that really interested me. And I wanted to do that for others. I wanted to give back in that same way, help people with their day, get through something they're dealing with in their life, provide an example of what you could become if you're looking for a role model. Because that's what I found at Trinity. I found by doing the arts here, I found adults who reflected back something I was feeling inside. I found people who allowed me to express myself as a queer man, as a Latino, as someone interested in the arts, and that was because a community was created here that supported that and that was open about that, even though a lot of things weren't talked about at that time. You know, it was a very different time, but I was supported by teachers here to be who I was, and that was very important. And so I go back to that, and I go back to that I can be that for someone else. And that is what I always have to remember, even in the hard times of this career. That, yeah, I might not be making a lot of money at certain points in this career. I may not be working at certain points, but there's a power to this art. And when it works, I can feel it. And I can feel people's lives being impacted. And that's really important to me, to be able to give that back to an audience, to a community, to our world, you know? So yeah, that's what I hold on to. And that's the biggest thing I've learned, because it's easy to get down on yourself when you're being told so much, when you're being told no so much, but you gotta remember that it's important work.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, that's all I have for you. Thank you so much.
Absolutely, thank you.